Welcome to Season 5 of the Manufacturers Network. Real talk with the people building what's next in manufacturing. And now your host, Lisa Ryan.
Hey, it's Lisa Ryan. Welcome to the Manufacturers Network podcast. I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Tony Gunn. Tony Gunn leads global operations at MTD CNC, one of the most influential media platforms in manufacturing, reaching hundreds of thousands of professionals each month. He spent 2 decades on shop floors and in boardrooms around the world, giving him a front row seat to the technologies, trends, and people shaping modern manufacturing. So, Tony, welcome.
Lisa, it's always wonderful to spend time with you.
So share with us a little bit about your background and what led you to doing what you do.
The first thing I want to do, Lisa, is that introduction, absolutely beautiful, but there's been some changes over the last few weeks.
Wow.
And so I'd like to take this opportunity to clarify some of those things because it's brand new over the last couple of weeks, which is I'm no longer with MTD CNC. It was a wonderful 5-year run and amazing people, amazing company. I'm grateful for everything I've learned from there, but I'm now doing my own thing. I now run TGM Global Services, and I will still be in the media space, and I will still be traveling the world. And I have a whole lot of friends and partners, and 2026 is already 95% booked up to travel around the world and continue to create content. But I think it's important for everyone to know that this is now something I'm doing on my own. It gives me more freedom, more flexibility, more opportunity, more growth potential, and I'm really excited about the new journey.
That sounds fantastic. You have seen manufacturing literally from every angle, from machinist to global GM. So what perspectives from those early days are still guiding you now?
From the early days, I would say all of them, honestly. All of them. You're right. Like some of my favorite memories, even this still are being created, are going into a garage and seeing a machine shop with 1, 2, 3, 4 machines, spending time with those people, becoming friends with those people, and watching them grow and celebrating their growth. And you're right. I've spent time with head engineers and CEOs at the largest companies in the world. We can name drop a dozen of them if we wanted to, but I imagine everyone knows what companies we're leaning toward when we talk about world leaders. Learning from those folks. I think this is a common saying, but it's something I believe in also, that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I love being the dumbest person in the room. I love sitting down in a room of experts and learning from everyone. And admittedly so, being able to go, I don't know that answer. Thank you for teaching me. I appreciate that. But stepping more into your question, Lisa, with what do I still utilize today from maybe those early days? And it's really when I try to help people share their stories and help new technology be realized, I want to do my best, Lisa, to try to explain it from when I was first learning, when I was first turning a piece of raw material into something of value and appreciating the newness that it might be for someone who's just getting started, because we want people to feel empowered and knowledgeable. We want them to understand and not get left behind or speak at a level that just because we've been doing it so long and we have all these acronyms that only half the people know about as we're dropping letters everywhere we go. I don't want people to get left behind. I try to take my early days of when I was mopping floors on the weekends to make extra money at minimum wage, when I was using the most basic presses out there to punch holes in things, before I ever got on a CNC machine, before I ever really made a completed part and saw where it went and who it helped and who it served. I like to be there to remember the starting point and have gratitude and humility for that starting point. I still think about the people who helped me along the way, that I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I am today without the amazing, wonderful, beautiful people who took their time to support my amateur, my novice, my beginning stages. And I have several friends who I think back to fondly and then just have ultimate gratitude that they took the time, even though they were experts, 50, 60, even over 65 years old, that taught me how to do line by line programming, that taught me the purpose of machining and how to do coding, and gave me the opportunity to take home the books and learn what each code meant and really understand how to make product from the floor, from the bottom floor, and not just either not teach me anything and leave me to my own sources, or fail. And there are a lot of people that took me under their wing. And I hope that in my current service that I can put people under my wing and help them in a semi-equal way. I just want to do the best I can to support an industry that's brought me so much to my life.
Wow. And you've seen a lot, and with technology coming at us at such a fast pace right now, what do you feel that manufacturers are really hungry to understand or to solve right now?
It's a really good question, Lisa. And you're right. My job is to know as much about this industry as I can and share it with as many people as possible. And I still can't keep up. And it's my job. I can only imagine how difficult it might be for folks out there who are day-to-day activities running a shop. And some just trying to stay afloat, some thriving, of course. But as a general rule, it is really difficult to keep up with how fast everything is moving. And if we were to break it down and we think about the majority, okay, we'll talk about from a global scale real quick and not just the US, though you and I are both in the US. From a global scale, I see still the utilization of machines that are 15, 20, 30, 40 years old, still running good parts. But to be fair, they aren't able to complete a part on one machine. Maybe they need 5 machines to do it. They're not able to have the faster processes that we can implement today with the investment of money and technology, which maybe those resources aren't there. I spent time at the American Precision Museum out in Vermont, and 200 years ago, they were making micron parts, but it took them 2 weeks, and now it's taking us 2 minutes. So technology allows us to evolve, but being able to see the contrast between how it was done with pulleys and wheels and a water wheel pushing for the energy to what we have today, it is really difficult to keep up. And I would believe, even though there's a lot of folks talking about it now, and with value, of course, but there's a lot of folks talking about a labor shortage, right? So I think a lot of the companies out there are trying to combine inspiring the STEM, the youth with the STEM these days, but also we can't just wait for that because that's years in the making. It's going to take a long time to do. So in the midterm, we have to adapt technology, and it's which technology do we adapt? Which ones are most affordable? Which ones give us the best ROI when we think about it moving so quickly? But I think the goal and the strategy for a lot of the companies out there are to try and minimize a labor shortage while still competing globally. And how do we do that? We adapt these different forms of automation, whether it's your typical robots and cobots, or your pallet systems, or your bar feeds. There's different forms of how we can automate a cell based on the parts that we're making. And if a machinist out there can run 10 machines instead of 1 machine and manually load and unload, and now they can set up a process that runs 24/7, and they're pretty much just monitoring the whole thing because automation is there. And then we have the opportunity to combine that with something like a Datanomics out there who understands the entire system, or a Fulcrum combined with Datanomics out there who understands a whole system and can actually take all traditionally tribal knowledge and put it right into a TV screen right in front of you. Not only do the operators know exactly what's happening, but the management and ownership knows exactly what's happening. It doesn't take a full day of meetings to ask everyone what's happening with 80% truths and 20% of fibbing. And we know actually what's going on in the shop, what the real uptime is, what our real capabilities are. Do we need a new machine? Do we need to automate a machine? Where our bottlenecks are, how we can reduce those bottlenecks and create a better platform to make products that will be quality, very high quality, but also in a cost-effective way that allows the whole system to run smoothly in a globally competitive market. And we talk about reshore and nearshore and a lot, Lisa, as well, but it's still going to be global. It's always going to be global. No matter what we try to do from here on out, there's tariffs trying to maybe bring some stuff back, but adding a ton of complication as well. We won't dive too much into that. But the idea and concept is that we need to figure out, with less of a resource of people than we would like to have, how can we still compete in areas of the world that can mass produce products with millions, if not billions of people ready to go. So technology matters. Paying attention to technology matters, which is, again, why I'm continuing to do what I do on the media side of things now. because we're showcasing what shops can do. We're showcasing the new technology. I hope people have the time to pop onto YouTube or LinkedIn from time to time. And I think people do. And I think they take time to do that, especially when they know they need something. They'll look for specific hashtags or Google searches, and Google immediately connects to YouTube. And I hope it helps. And I know it helps based on the reviews that we get. But as a general rule, it's not an easy task, but that's the goal ultimately, is I think reducing the skills gap by applying modern technology. But then we play the game, Lisa, of, am I being financially responsible? Do I have the budget to implement this technology? And if I do, how quickly can I get my money back? And do I take a loan, or am I above budget and I can handle that? So there's a lot of combinations of how different organizations are helping factories adapt new technology in a financially responsible way with the quickest ROI. And it's just a matter of, they say, what is it, like 80% of it's not who you know, or not what you know, it's who you know. Finding the right network out there and trusting that network that they're not going to deceive you. And if they don't have the correct product or the correct capability, they'll be honest about that and send you to someone who does. But knowing that you have that confidence with any relationship you have in life allows that ability to grow a machine shop and overall create a winning situation from some of the complications previously mentioned.
Now, you mentioned ROI a couple times in that, and of course that's on everybody's mind because none of us have unlimited budgets. So from what you're seeing in the field, what's the smartest ROI for shops that may be just getting started?
Ooh, for shops just getting started. Okay, that's difficult, Lisa, because am I a shop that's getting started and I am still learning machining, or am I expert machinist that came from another shop that can run 5-axis, 8-axis machines without difficulty, or do I need to hire these people to do it? So it's a complex, difficult onion to peel back, because every person is different. Every desire of what they're going to make is different. Depending on what I'm making, I might go with a turning center that can do milling operations and I'm done in one. And every single part that comes off my machine, I'm putting it straight into a box because that's immediate ROI. There's no secondary operations. There's no waste of floor space. There's no waste of operators. There's no waste of time. I can put a bar feed on the back of that and feed it through nights and weekends if I have enough of depending on the type of job shop, if it's a production shop or a high mix, if it's 1 off or 50 off or 100 off, just depending on how many parts are being made. I've had conversations with folks to say, give me any part within my realm of my machine size, any part you want that comes off of a milling machine, and I can do it on my turning machine faster, better, and more affordably. Everything is going to be a conversation for anyone who starts. Some people who start don't think that they have enough machines or enough work to invest in the digital side of things. And I would respectfully disagree with that. I think it's very important to understand how to do your quoting with something like a paperless parts, why to do your machine monitoring. And if we have 1 or 2 machines, we probably know the majority, but to know the real truth, that's important. And it's a small investment to learn, have a lot of information. I found, Lisa, that people that start off in the beginning, and I learned this from my friends at EBITDA Growth Systems, my buddies Dave and Mike over there, is there are so many wizards on the machine. And these wizards often get frustrated that they don't feel like they're getting paid enough, or they're being abused in their machine shop. So they say, forget you guys, I'm going to go run my own shop. And they do, and they start, and they can make any part that you could ever fathom. You put it into a piece of paper, you put it into a napkin with your imagination, they can probably make it for you. But what I've found and what I've learned from them is that the front end and back end sometimes get lost. The ability to quote. Sometimes we try to overwork in order to create profitability, and we underquote. So we're selling ourselves short. We're winning more jobs from the people. We're winning more bids from the people out there, but we're not making any money, and we're working 100 hours a week in order to create any sort of profit. So I think understanding the front end and back end, so understanding how to quote, what parts you should accept, which ones you should refuse, because they're going to make you lose money regardless of if it's more work into your facility or not. And then the back end, the communication, customer service, the lead times, making sure that's all taken care of. You can make a mistake on a part if you let the customer know it's going to happen 2 or 3 days or a week before it happens, and digital automation helps people understand that. And that communication will keep a client versus some of them calling you the day of or a day after and saying, where's my part? And you say, let me run out to the shop floor and check. Let me just double check and see where, it's not going to ship for another week. We're a little behind. You'll lose a client really fast like that. But communication, front end and back end, to someone who's starting a machine shop, who's just getting started, the technology is their choice. If I was going to start today, I would have, and this is just theoretical, and I'm sure somebody listens to this and be like, you can't do that, Tony. But in my mind, if I was going to start a machine shop today, it would be completely automated. I'd have one, maybe two people, and the machines would pretty much do the running themselves. They would manage the shop, even to the point of loading and unloading tools through automation, through carrying them back and forth, from being able to automate part removal and dropping it into a bin. Everything I would do would be automated. And then I would only need to manage one or two people. It would be my job to sell whatever I need to sell, or if I was ever going to create a shop, I'd make my own proprietary part and not to need to make bids all the time and figure out what that is in the world of helping someone, medical or whatever it might be. But as a general rule, if I was going to start something, I would take the loan, I would take the debt, believing in myself, investing in the quickest ROI, which I believe is keeping machines running, keeping the chips running off the machine, keeping those spindles turning. And if we're doing that, we're going to create profitability. And I think that's the best route to go.
You mentioned the employees that are feeling like basically they're being treated like crap and they go somewhere else and they start their own company. And a lot of that comes down to culture, because you're right. There's a difference between making parts and actually running a business. And sometimes it's just easier to come in and run the parts and let somebody else run the business. But that really also comes down to culture. So what are some of the ways that you're seeing that companies are creating a culture where their machinists don't want to go off on their own because they really feel valued and appreciated and for the good work that they're doing?
Another fantastic question that requires a lot of information, Lisa, because there's no one answer to that. If you
Right.
take a poll right now and ask a disgruntled employee why they're unhappy, you would have 10% in a whole bunch of different slots. And I think most people just say, pay them more. But I've been paid more and I wasn't happy. So it's not always being paid more. Do most machinists deserve more? Yeah. Has the span between a shop floor worker and any CEO of any company dramatically increased? Yeah, there's a huge distance there. In fact, they just had a conversation with the CEO from Boeing, and the increase of his profit in a year's time from the year before compared to his machinist. And there was a deep conversation about that. And I think it's important to understand that we do need to pay for our homes and pay for our food and take care of our families and these necessities that we want in life. Most of us are pretty peaceful people if we can have a fairly simple, have a couple of vacations, this type of stuff, right? But at the end of the day, I think most of us are happiest when we feel like we're served, when we have purpose in our lives, when we feel like we're wanted and desired in a company, when what we bring to the table is a wanted item, when we go into work and we feel appreciated. These are things that I think honor the human soul more than just money. Money and materialistic things, they come and go. It's like hold on to sand. We all know that. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it can buy a lot of things that can make us happy. However, at the end of the day, it's still just things. So it's going to be a combination, Lisa. It's going to be a combination of offering respect, offering a bit more money, being able to take care of families. Potentially, we bring back the ability to retire without having to run our own careers, because so many of the 401ks have been dropped. So many of the partnerships to the companies have been dropped. We're just pretty much working week to week or month to survive. With how are we have to do all of that retirement stuff on our own time. There's a combination of things that can be brought back to some of the companies that I'm familiar with here in the US. And some are doing that. Some are really wonderful, and they've kept employees for a long time. And I know that those employees appreciate the value that they bring to the company and vice versa. But that's a conversation you can have with 10 different people in a room, and they're all going to have a different perspective on what they want to have in order to stay at a company. Some of them just want clean air and a good lunch from time, or longer lunch break. So you walk into a machine shop and there's no filtration. You can't breathe every day. So yes, it really varies depending on the shop. But I think the easiest ones are just having purpose in life and having a bit more money.
Yeah. I know that in all of your travels, you've visited more than 60 countries. So what are some of the global practices or innovations that you think that U.S. manufacturers should be paying attention to?
That's going to step right back into automation again. And I'm going to expand on that a little bit because automation is key. But the reason I step back is because in some countries, they have really wonderful apprenticeship programs. And we are okay, but it's somewhat disconnected with our STEM and our trades. For example, the majority of our trade schools don't truly have a system in place to communicate with each other, to have a overall success scheme for the entire country. It's more regional or local. And I've spent a lot of time at these trade schools, and they'll utilize different platforms in order to educate their students. But I was just in Brazil, and they have a corporation, is probably not the right word, but there's this thing called Sinai. It's a company called Sinai, and they've been in business since 1942. They've had over 80 million students come through their program throughout the years. And I think they put through about 2.8 million a year, something like that. They have about, I'm going to get this part wrong, but somewhere between 60 and 80 different locations throughout the country. And then for the rural areas, they actually send buses and boats to do 6-month, 9-month trainings for the people in the area. And the significant part about all this is that it's actually machine shop funded. And I'm going to get this a little bit wrong as well, but 1% of the profit that every shop in the country makes goes towards the education system. So these students get free education to be a part of manufacturing. And they have these areas that are 500,000 square meters with some of the best machines that they can bring into the facility. The videos I've made are coming out very soon, but there's hundreds of machines in these facilities. On top of that, the locations are actually designated to, and not every location, some are more flexible, but a lot of the locations are based on what's being made in said area. Brazil is known for aerospace. They say that they were number one in aerospace in the world. The US claims that we were. One was a motor and one, there's a conversation about that as well, but they're really good at aerospace. And so if you're in a certain segment of, say, Sao Paulo, it's completely focused on training kids on how to do aerospace parts. You're in another section, it's mold and die, plastic injection. Another section is medical. So based on, in a place like Switzerland, for example, there's a region that makes just watches. There's a region that makes just medical. And so Brazil has adopted that idea based on bringing people into the environment in order, so they don't have a labor shortage. They don't have a skills gap. And on top of that, something that's very important to understand, Lisa, is I go into a lot of machine shops or not machine shops, yes, machine shops, but trade schools. And I think there's great value, and we should not remove manual machining. I think it's necessary to learn. I think feeling the vibration, the hum, the purr of the machine before you get into CAD CAM to understand what can and can't be programmed, very valuable. But we're also limiting a lot of our students because of fear that they might crash a better machine, a 5-axis machine, an 8-axis machine, a turning center with 4 turrets and 2 spindles. So they don't usually exist in a lot of these trade schools. We're still teaching kind of remedial processes. So when a person gets into a shop, they can do the remedial stuff, but they can't immediately jump in and help make the parts that need to be made, right? Whereas somewhere like I was just at in Brazil, or where I was in Switzerland, where 300,000 students came into an exhibition, it was dedicated to them from 11 to 18 years old so they could select the career that they want to pick. And by 20 years old, they have a degree. There's a lot more to that story as well. But what's happened is the technology of today are in these trade schools so that when they get out of the trade school, they can immediately drive an effect. They can immediately start being a part of the system and make good parts on the complicated machines. I elaborated on that part because that's how we can continue to do better in the future if we adapt some of these ideologies. But ultimately, what I see in other parts of the world, to get back to the main part of your question, is automation. If you think about what China has done over the last 20 to 30 years, yes, the kings of reverse engineering, I don't think anybody will argue that. But what they've done is they not only reverse engineered, but they started to improve on that engineering. And not at all times, of course. There's some proprietary secrets that a photo and a video that you steal from a trade show or buy a machine and reverse engineer that gets left out. But as a general rule, they have improved and they have great technology now. Not only that, and I don't know the percentage itself, some other folks out there might, but they have bought more automation than any other country in the world. So they can automate high productivity in their machine shops better than anyone else in the world right now. Now, the automation does come from places like your Japans and Koreas that you think about that kind of created it, or Denmark with the universal robots and all the cobots and the growth of that. And we think about 3D printing to go along with it. And then all the digital, that's so very important to actually understand what a shop is going through. But as a general rule, automation, and we got to look to other places in the world who have adopted it far quicker and far more superior than we have over the last 20 years. We got left behind. We need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot. Now, the thing that's with your energy, you are known for elevating the people behind the machines. So what really drives that passion? And I guess what's the career advice that you give most often?
You got the best questions, I tell you. You let me ramble a lot too, which is fun. So there's a couple reasons, as usual, so I think when I have the ability to create content, Lisa, and somebody views that content, even though, yes, I have a lot of energy and maybe some people tune in for a good laugh now and then because I'm silly sometimes or whatever it might be, ultimately, I believe that if a machinist is courageous enough to get on camera and gives their somewhat unbiased or agnostic view about how said technology is working for them, it is the best way for someone to receive information without feeling like they're sold something. I think that people want to receive information from someone who's on the shop floor, from someone who's running the parts every day, from someone who's had the trials and the mistakes and has found the failures in any of the technologies and has wanted to improve on that technology, wanted to create success in their machine shops. From my perspective, when I'm making content, is to help the audience. Because, and don't get me wrong, I love talking to salespeople. They're supposed to know their technology better than anyone else. They're supposed to go to the headquarters of whatever facility and learn the details of how this all works, why it works, how it was built. So learning from them has great wisdom and knowledge as well, but we all know we're being sold something. And there's benefit to that as well, but we know we're being sold something. When we hear from the machinist, we're hearing from the person on the floor working that thing every single day, and that has value. The second thing is that the machinists need to be seen. We have for far too long been an invisible industry. The slogan of my company, which is the Machinist Club and the Worldwide Machinist, is we machine the unseen that moves the world. We need to get more of these folks to be seen because there's people walking around, as everyone knows right now, we talk about this every day, all the time, where they are so happy to have their phone and their car and fly in their planes and all of these things that are more or less cliche because so many people are talking about them now, but it doesn't mean that it's not the truth. Everything around us is made in some form of STEM, some form of manufacturing, welding, trades, all of this. And yet we don't respect them. It was demonized. It was considered the second opportunity if you couldn't get into a university. It's considered the misfits and the losers and the dropouts and the GED educations. That's just not the case. These people who work with their hands, these plumbers, electricians, machinists, this is the future. As AI starts to take more and more of these simplistic jobs of people sitting on a computer and coding and things like that, sitting in a cubicle, it cannot take people working with their hands. This is the future for everyone who wants to have a good, stable career for a lifetime. So for me, it's about giving them a voice as well, giving them an opportunity to share their story because I'm tired of them not being respected. I was tired of not being respected myself. I just have a big freaking mouth. And so I keep talking about it. And so hopefully I've earned the respect. You can't demand respect. You can't force respect, but I want to earn the respect. And in doing so, I try to give them the confidence to do the same thing, to let them know how important they are. And that's why I want them on camera.
And as we're getting to the end of our time together, now, what are you most excited about coming up?
My new transition. I am most excited about my new transition. Going back to the beginning of this conversation, Lisa, it gives me more opportunity, more flexibility, more creativity to do the things that I've always wanted to do. My channel has grown exponentially. We're about to, I'm not sure when this drops, it'll be more, of course, but we're currently about to surpass 400,000 subscribers on YouTube. LinkedIn is thriving right now. Instagram, which is good, really good in places like Brazil and India, is starting to grow and take form as well. So for me, on a personal level, I'm just extremely excited for what 2026 and beyond is going to look like. The partnerships that have been generated that I know that I'll be working with in 2026, They're great people, great products and companies. We're going to get to see things that we've never seen before. When I was in Brazil, I saw one of three of this type of technology, and it slips my mind at the moment, but there's only one of three in the world. The other one's in France and the other one's in Sweden. It's a 4th generation system. And I was able to get inside, show the world what it looks like and what it means to have this type of technology, what it can do for the world, even fighting cancer. And it's amazing. So something like that story, I'm not sure has ever really been told before. So to be able to tell that. So for me, I'm just extremely excited on a personal level to see what happens next. We're aiming for 1 million subscribers on YouTube and beyond within the next year. We're working hard to do it. And then within the industry, I do think there's a resurgence. I do think that we're starting to see a little bit of respect come back. And I know some folks would probably disagree with me, but I have a lot of friends in this industry who have quit their day-to-day jobs to pursue the opportunity to inspire the next gen. They're giving keynotes. They're traveling from schools, middle schools and high schools, conveying messages to not just the students about opportunity, but to the parents as well, because you got to convince the parents that this is a good idea, not just the students. I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful. I'm a perpetual optimistic, sometimes annoyingly, but I'm hopeful and grateful to play a small part in this really amazing industry that's given me so much over the last 25 plus years.
And if somebody did want to continue the conversation or learn more about all the things you're doing, what's the best way for them to get in touch and also to find you?
Lisa, you're full of great questions. WhatsApp is actually my most used platform. Anyone can message me anytime, no matter where I am in the world. And it doesn't cost a dime to do it. It doesn't cost a dime for me. It's a great social media platform as far as that aspect goes. And I utilize that. But for someone who doesn't have my cell number, and I'm not going to give it out on here because I know you're famous and everyone listens to the show, I would say my second resource is LinkedIn, because not everyone has my email. I'm always checking, and people do message me there all the time. In fact, I just recently had someone message me on LinkedIn saying, hey, I think my emails are going to your junk. Can you double check? And that's easily the best way to find me if you don't have any of my contact information. And then email, I usually check third, but those are the three main ways. And if you just want to follow along, YouTube under the Worldwide Machinist, great platform, great way to learn about the industry, to see what we're up to. And LinkedIn as well. There's more day-to-day activities on LinkedIn, where I am, what I'm doing, what I'm up to. Whereas on YouTube, it's going to be a final product of somewhere I've been, and you get to see the technology from the video edited, perfected form. So LinkedIn, I don't post very much like Facebook, and I'm putting up my finger quotes right now for people listening, but I don't do very much Facebook stuff on LinkedIn. I always respect that it's a business site. So I'm posting what I'm doing for business, not so much personal. I don't even have a Facebook page really. I think I have it, but I don't have it. I don't use it. So I respect the platform. So see what's going on in my business world. If someone wants to know about what's going on personally, they're more than welcome to reach out. But those are the main ways. That's pretty much how you get in touch with me.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a blast.
You are an absolute pleasure. Thank you for listening to all my rambling. Thank you for asking such great questions. I apologize for talking so much. I hope it's beneficial and educational for some of the listeners out there. And you're such an amazing host and an amazing person. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Ryan, and this is the Manufacturers Network Podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Manufacturers Network Podcast. If this conversation gave you something to think about, share it with someone else who will get it. And hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next.